Understanding is the best part. To be the self, to be authentic, to be real, you have to go against the grain. Going against the grain of the programming. The programming where you might fall for the illusion of feeling secure behind what the people say or what the people agree to. What the beautiful, the charismatic, and the alluring image of influencers and personalities that are there to make you feel like you're making the right decision. That hesitation and fear that you have inside of yourself to follow your heart, because rejection is around the corner. Somebody might shame you. Somebody might make you feel guilty. Somebody might fill you up with laughing emojis and talking junk, having you to question yourself, doubt yourself. It's time to grow up. It's time to grow up now. There are events around the corner that requires a sober mind, a clear conscience, and resilience. It's coming. It's coming. Who's real and who's not real? Who's authentic and who's fake? You know if you fake, even as I'm saying it. If you're fake, you know you fake. And if you're real, you know you're real. Be careful out here. There is programming that's running. Social engineering that's running. Paid actors that are acting. It's not new. They're just more desperate to get you to behave and think in a way that is advantageous to them, these monarchs, these oligarchs, these Khazarians. They are desperate to have ownership and control of your mind, your perception, your opinions, your thoughts. Ignorance is bliss, but let me tell you, it's a dangerous position to be in today. I warn you. I warn you. Do the due diligence. Research, learn, know. Don't just believe, know. What do you know? What do you understand to be the truth? What have you clarified through research and confirmation? What does your clairvoyance tell you? What does the truth of your heart, your spirit, the gut, what does it tell you? You can't believe your eyes today. You can't believe your ears today. Those days are over. This is a different time, and the demands are quite unique. And there's very little time to catch up if you should waste time.
So hard to talk about is we have a visceral response to the word. And shame is not a let's study this and talk about those people who have it. Like you have it, I have it, and no one wants to talk about it.
So define it. Is it what we all think shame is?
You know, it's by definition, I think what emerged from the data for me is it's the deeply painful feeling or experience of believing that we are flawed and somehow unworthy of connection, love, and belonging.
And everybody experiences this.
Everybody, it's a universal emotion.
Is it different from guilt?
Very different from guilt. So shame is really a focus on self, while guilt seems to be a focus on behavior. So shame, I am bad. Guilt, I did something bad. So just an example. I'm your teacher and I give you your test back and you get a 47 out of 100. Shame self-talk would be, God, I'm so stupid, I'm an idiot. Guilt self-talk would be, God, it was really stupid not to study for that. Man, not a good idea to go out last night. When we can focus on behavior, we are much more likely to respond with empathy and actually change. But it's like, one of the questions I get from parents all the time is like, my kid lied to me. And so I looked at my kid and I said, you're a liar. And that's very shaming, right? You're a liar, not you told a lie and that's unacceptable and here are the consequences for telling a lie. When we call ourselves or other people liars or losers or, stupid, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Where do you go from there? As opposed to, look, you're a great kid, but you lied and that's completely not okay. And here are the consequences for lying. And if it happens again, here are the consequences. So when we are able to separate a focus on self and a focus on behavior, we're much more likely to be able to change the behavior. If we catch one of our kids saying, God, I'm so stupid, when they're doing their homework, no. You can say, God, I'm confused, I'm lost, I don't know what's happening, but I'm stupid is not gonna work. We just don't talk to each other or ourselves like that in this house.
All right, so what I'm about to go over, you want to get your natal chart and all that, you know what I'm saying, so you can, make it personal to yourself. I'm going to use myself, my own placements, to give the perspective here. You know what I mean? I'm going to use myself, but I want you to put it in the context of your chart, If it's confusing to you, what I'm about to explain, if it's confusing to you, you don't get it, don't give up. Don't get frustrated, get me involved. If it's going to take, more than a few minutes for me to explain it to you, you need to schedule a session. You know what I mean? You need to, book a session with me. And, I can spend all the time I need to make sure that you understand it. Any people that I work with behind the scenes, I don't rush. You know what I'm saying? Anybody out there can tell you that I never rush. I never rush, okay? When I work with somebody behind the scenes, I care about what I'm doing and I care about who I'm helping. All right? There's no time limitation. The session ends when I know that you understand. The session ends when I know you feel like you have clarity or when you feel like you're more confident than you were, than when we first got on the phone. And, I'm not going to end the session until I know that that's the case. You know what I'm saying? Because the understanding is what it's all about. And I meet you where you're at. There's, that's just an insight right there. Now, as you listen to this about Aries, okay, I'm going to start with Aries with explaining the Aries placement, the I am factor, the I am status of Aries. Now, Pisces, where we have the shame, fear, and guilt and escapism, these shadows in Pisces that we have to heal and take authority back from. Okay, we have to take authority back. Saturn represents our authority. It represents our access to authority. It represents our understanding of how to generate and establish and keep our authority, how to deliver our authority. And authority moves power, okay? But this is having authority over our own subconscious programming, to take command of our subconscious programming. Now, before you get to the I am, you got to get through Pisces. I believe. You see how that works? See, already you know where this is going. Pisces is I believe. Aries is I am. I'm going to let that marinate. I believe I am. I believe I am. Neptune and Aries. Am I who I believe I am? Do I believe who I am? Am I who I believe I am? Do I believe who I am? Am I who they believe I am? Do I believe who they think I am? The Pisces programming, guilt. There's shame and guilt. And as I told you, every demographic, every race, every community, let's not be shy to talk about it. Let's not be shy to bring it up and address it. It doesn't make you racist to acknowledge it. It doesn't make you racist to talk about it. It does not make you racist to acknowledge that this is what's happening right now. And it's happening to every people. White, black, Hispanic, Asian, everybody is on a chopping block of having fingers pointed at them from other people of the neighbors on earth. We all are neighbors on earth, and we're all pointing fingers at each other. And guess what? There's some filthy rich people at the top that are loving it. They're egging it on. They're instigating it, and they want us to fight. They want us to have a civil war. They want us to just lose our minds in hatred of each other. They want us to salivate over hatred and division and fear of each other. So the accusations are rising and rising. And it brings guilt on the collective conscience. And it also, this Saturn transit of Pisces, in your personal life and affairs, you have loads of guilt on you and shame, inadequacy, and that's residue of that Chiron at Aries. There are things about yourself that you were programmed to believe that may or may not be true. For that which is true, you have to go to Virgo to refine it. For that which is not true, you have to get to the truth of the self through Scorpio stellium. Scorpio has been very active. And you have to clarify the essence of who you are through and through eternally through Cancer. You have to go to the Divine Mother, the matriarchal source, the womb from which you were born from. Cancer, which is the consistency of matriarchal virtue and principle, that which guides the conscience. It is our conscience and subconscious, Cancer and Pisces, that is loaded with guilt. And we heal the conscience through the Mars retrograde in Cancer. However, Saturn still has an examination for our subconscious programming. And this is handed down from generation to generation. Generational curses, okay? The legacy of subconscious programming, shame, and guilt that runs through black folks community, white folks community, Asian folks community, Hispanic folks community, Caribbean folks community, yada, 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 yada. We inherited some shame and guilt collectively. We also inherited some shame and guilt from our households, from our forefathers, from our mothers and fathers and our great-grandmothers and great-great-greats and so on and so forth, okay? We inherit it. And we're supposed to clarify what is true and what is not. It doesn't mean that just because you feel shame and guilt that you're supposed to just be narcissistic, arrogant, and defiant and just, oh, I'm going to release this guilt. I'm just not going to be guilty anymore. It don't work like that. Is that what the truth is saying? Which is why we have Scorpio going through so many transformations with impulses, planets, and forces and aspects to help us to get down to the root, sub-bottom of our emotional burdens. Because that truth, that honesty, that sincerity is deep, 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 deep down in our gut. It's deep down in there. And we hid it away where we thought it would go away, but it didn't. Truth doesn't go away. So through Scorpio, we're bringing the truth back up to surface, which is why very sensitive topics and subject matters are being discussed between demographics and also in families and relationships. There are very sensitive subject matters right now that goes directly to our sense of shame and guilt. And that is part of our belief, the beliefs that we have. Some of our beliefs are founded on misinformation, miseducation, fear mongering, propaganda, shame tactics, plain old ignorance. There's a job done on us. And through that Gemini Uranus, we're supposed to break free of the confines and limitations of that conditioning, the inner ring of Saturn, and get to the revelation of the truth. That is through knowledge, through research, through our intellect, through discovery, through scholastic effort, research, examining and scrutinizing information in detail sincerely. This isn't this isn't a lazy mission. If you're lazy about it, you will never, ever, 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 ever align with it. Lazy people cannot accomplish this. You can't be lazy and do this. No, you can't. All you're going to do is sign up for another karmic cycle that you have to go through all over again, even if you have to die and come the fuck back to learn the damn lesson. And I'm not joking when I say that. You literally will die and come the fuck back if you refuse these lessons. I'm not joking. You will. You will die and come the fuck back. But you're going to learn these lessons. And so, if there's some shame and guilt on the self individually, is it true? Is there shame and guilt on you collectively? Is it true? If it is, correct it. And how do you correct what there is to have shame of or shame about? You have to go through Virgo to remove shame. Virgo, the process of refinement through Virgo. How do you access the truth of it? How do you find the resilience and courage to examine the truth for what it is, not what it presents itself to be, and not what you prefer it to be? Scorpio is what empowers you to do that, to withstand that truth, to be able to have the resilience to accept that truth, and thus transform and transmute your status towards empowerment and clarity by resurrecting the self and dying to the self that you had reason to be ashamed of. That's what Scorpio's there for. Dying to the version of the self that you had reason to be ashamed of. Being reborn through the number 9 Hermit card Virgo process, South Node Virgo. That's what this is about. It's about clearing and cleaning the conscience. Because once the conscience is cleared, I believe becomes opportunity. I believe. I am. I believe I am. I believe I am. I am what I believe. Or I am what somebody else made me believe. Who are you? What are you? Do you believe that that's who you are? Do you believe that that's what you are? If you do, there's a reason why you believe it. And it's not a question that you can answer in front of people, because that's when you're going to lie. You're going to say the politically correct thing. You're going to say something that makes you look good in front of people. These are questions that you have to answer when you're by your damn self in isolation. Because you're going to tell a goddamn lie because you're trying to save face. You're trying to look good in front of people. You're trying to avoid being rejected. You're trying to avoid being scrutinized and judged about what you think and believe about yourself, about what's taking place in this world and life. You're scared to say it. And we shouldn't have a problem with that because it's not about being brought out into the middle of the street and everybody throwing stones at you. It's about you being able to look in the mirror and be honest about how your belief system is programmed, how it's running, and what's in there, and what of it is true or not. Is it true? Is it true about you? There are hard truths about ourselves that we have to accept. Confession. It leads to confession. That confession, it leads to repentance. That repentance, it leads to opportunity for salvation. That leads to atonement. Now healing is taking place. On the other side is clarity and freedom, true freedom, a renewal, a resurrection, a rebirth. I am. Now the I am is clarified. Now the I am is true. Now the I am doesn't have hesitation. Now the I am doesn't feel bad about being who I am. Now I don't feel guilty about being who I am or what I am. Now I don't fall for the tricks of manipulation and threats of being rejected, threats of being shamed and called names. I'm going to be who I am and I'm not going to flinch because I have clarified my heart in who I am. For that which I was guilty of, I went through Virgo and I refined my character. For that which I could have no power to change about who I was, I died to that person so that I could resurrect in a new state of being in myself. You cannot hold any of that against me. Therefore, there's nothing you can hold against me, therefore. So what they got to say about the black community, some of it was true. And you will find that you were part of the problem in what was true of the black community. But do you have to remain that person? No. If you change and you decide not to be, acting and behaving like niggas, you don't have to feel shame when somebody else is talking about niggas. If you decided in your life to die to that version of yourself that used to walk around here acting like niggas, you don't have to feel angry, upset, frustrated, guilty, or ashamed when somebody else is calling out niggas. Like Nick Fuentes, for example. I believe he's very sincere about what he had to say about black people. I don't believe Charlie Kirk was sincere. But that's just my opinion. But Nick Fuentes, yeah, I think he really was sincere. And a lot of what he said is very, very true. Do I have to feel angry or feel shamed or guilt behind what Nick Fuentes said? No. Because I've decided long ago that I'm not going to be that person. I'm not going to live like that. I'm not going to contribute to that reality. So my conscience is clear. This is the same thing that the white community has to do when it comes to white Christian nationalism. Clear yourself of the shame and guilt. And you don't have to feel bad when somebody talking about white Christian nationalism, hiding in the back, feeling guilty, shamed, and everything else. Getting upset and frustrated when somebody called the shit out. If you don't have that theory in your mind, if that's not what you believe in, white supremacy and white Christian nationalism, you ain't got nothing to worry about. Your conscience is clear. And you could apply the same thing that I'm saying to your demographic. If you Chinese, Jamaican, Caribbean, I don't give a damn, whatever. We all got something to look at. But it's clearing the conscience of who we believe we are. And the responsibility and accountability that goes into that. And what that does is it clarifies. It's like you get a rough diamond. And it gets so dirty and scratched up that it loses, it loses the color frequencies and the transition of light that it's capable of transmitting, you know, outward as rays of light and color and frequencies. So if you polish it and you cut it, that light is brilliant. It's radiant and brilliant. So it's like clarifying that I am to where it shines and illuminates to where you know you never have to say who you are. You're being it. And in being that, everyone witnesses who God is. Because when you are being true to yourself, who you were meant to be when you came to earth, we are witnessing a thought and expression of God, he herself. Understand? That's what we witnessing. So we're supposed to clarify the expression of God that we are. I am. But our conscience has to be cleared to get to that person. Understand? But I think we get that point. So listen up. You know, this is like a little study thing. You know what I mean? If it's a good thing, I'll keep doing it this way. You know what I mean? The feedback out there really helps. You know, your feedback lets me know what you need more of, or, you know, or how, you know, how I need to scratch your back or whatever. You know what I'm saying? You don't tell me, you know, how the fuck I'm supposed to know? You know what I'm saying? Because I'm just going to get up here and be me, you know? But anyway, yeah, listen up, you heard? Like, share, subscribe, all that. Show your support.
Staring at, fucker. You make me break. You want to start me up? Just open the choke and pull the cord, pal. I'm due for a side second end. You're dancing on the fault line.
Hey, what is your problem, pal?
I got no beef with you. This is between me and the kid.
Stop it!
He started it.
I'm so sorry. I have to apologize for him. I mean, he's
Come on,
this thing.
stand right here for
He
us.
has this thing
Let's
where
go.
he just...
Oh, poor baby. I should let his daddy fight his battles for him.
He's an ass.
Pussy. How's it hanging, fellas?
Hank, I presume.
Do you miss me?
Why don't you just send Charlie back out here? Things were finally becoming civilized.
Listen, Pocahontas. Unless you put your ear to the ground, you'll never hear the buffalo coming.
Look, I don't know what that means, okay?
It means either he's got to make up a battle plan, or old Hank's gonna have to take over for Charlie for good.
Did you just refer to yourself in the fourth person?
Holy Jesus in heaven. It's a giant Q-tip.
Hank!
Well, I'm joking with the guy. Bring a little sunshine into his life. Careful, you'll peel.
Do you need to see a menu?
No, thank you. We've ordered. That's it.
Hey. Hold on there, cheese tits. Did I miss something?
Don't give me that shit! What you just did to that kid was terrible. Didn't you see the look on his face?
Look a little pale.
So we want to look at our Aries placement. If I haven't mentioned already, you know, I'm putting the pieces together in this recording. As it relates to the Aries placement, it's about shame. As it relates to the first house, it's about guilt. Understand this: shame and guilt. The shame is we believe we are something that we cannot be proud of. We have accepted the belief that we are someone or something that is not deserving of acceptance, love, inclusion, care, forgiveness, respect, reverence, appreciation, generosity, advocacy, and inclusion, if I haven't mentioned that. Now, it's our responsibility to dig deep through the Scorpio opportunity especially with Mercury transiting Scorpio now, to get down to the bottom of that mindset that we have and to find what is true of it and what is not true of it. And what remains true consistently is that it's not true that we are not worthy or deserving of love and acceptance based on who we think we are or who someone else thinks we are. Okay? This does not absolve us from the responsibility and accountability that must go with what actions, behaviors, or patterns and character that we find ourselves operating through. And whether or not some changes and adjustments should be made to reflect a higher sense of justice and consideration, dignity, self-respect, and pride. Understand, a civilized disposition about the self. Now, as it goes for guilt, it's based on our actions. The feedback that we have been getting from our actions could indicate a lack of worthiness, a sense of unworthiness. Now, this is crystallized as a lesson or opportunity for revelation and healing, further healing, to disseminate, dig deep, and reclassify, rename, title through the Mercury Scorpio opportunity, getting down to the bottom of the pain that we have yet to transform or transmute, that which is at the end of our sense of power and control that we have no choice but to surrender to as a reality, investigating these things. So shame and guilt both expressing through the I am at Aries and also the I am at the first house. So what Pisces suggests through opportunity of Saturn teaching us our power of consent along the line of these things. Have you said to yourself that you are, I'll just go down the line with some characteristics that are not, flattering. Did you say to yourself, that you are, a thief, a liar, even today's topics, a racist or a misogynist, a feminist, a Republican, a Democrat, there are many curse words and dirty words and designations, social designations, that can get thrown around and become part of our program and what we select as an identity or what we decide to identify with through the I am. So the Saturn is helping us to learn to maintain a sense of control with our power of consent. And what identities we are selecting and identifying with, it can have a lot to do with whether or not we see fulfillment in our life, the aura that we radiate from, and what energies we are attracting or persons that we are attracting into our life as lessons, as a means out of these cycles. And those are usually painful and loaded with karma, okay, in order to come to that realization. But overall, I want us to understand to place the shame and the guilt in the right places as we study ourselves, okay? This is very important. Now, in relationship context, being the mirror of ourself, we could easily say, I am unworthy, I am no good, I am not valuable enough or not good enough, I am lesser than in comparison to somebody else. These things are very easy and tempting for us to fall into. They are traps and we must be very careful. So-and-so cheated on you yesterday, okay? And you found out that so-and-so cheated, and you decided to take that so far as to say, I am unattractive, I am unworthy, I am not a good man or a good woman, I am this, I am that. That was that person's decision. They made that decision. And the decisions that somebody else is making, it does not make a claim or indication of who you are, what your status is, and what your value is as well. We need not be delusional at the same time. There are causations, there are influences, there are factors that we contribute to the perception of a reality. I am not here to give us a ticket out of accountability. That is the worst thing that we can do. Okay? Understand. Consistent with this Pisces-Saturn transit, name calling in these days is part of propaganda. It's part of controlling people. It's part of socializing individuals. It's part of social engineering. It's part of mental and emotional conditioning. If you get called certain names or labeled certain names, it is part of how your behavior is controlled. So you can be an authentic person. You could be, you could have good intentions, or you could do something that it's not a crime, or it's not disrespectful, rude, or whichever else. But the feedback can be spoken in such a way that says you are such and such, or you are being such and such, or you are so and so. Okay, all types of slurs and bad names and bad words and classifications and accusations. These are things that are scare tactics that tricks you out of your most authentic expressions. When you should reach to be authentic, somebody is going to have something to say that's going to have you to doubt who you are, what you are, and what your worth is. That is a normal reaction. That is a normal response to being real, being authentic. And if you can't handle that, you do not get to see the glory of being real. You do not get to see the blessings, the reward, the fruit of being authentic. There is going to be pushback for being who you really are. Somebody is going to have, something of that feedback to say. And this understanding needs to be clarified so that we're not consistently giving consent to shame tactics, and we're not giving consent to guilt trips, and we're not giving consent to, verbal attempts to control, a bunch of laughing emojis, calling you names that's not popular to be known by, okay, or that goes against the status quo or what is popular to be in this time. These are tests for us. If we're going to be authentic, we need to know how to maneuver such tactics. A good example of that as a socializing agent and device, the divisiveness of this psychological warfare. For example, in the Black communities, if you are, an intelligent person, you wear your pants on your waist and you're not coming with this thug image and street credibility and, walk and talk in certain ways that are so popular or whatever else, you get called names like green, square, you lame, you boring, or you get shamed out of your nature. You get shamed out of your true self. You get shamed out of your natural state. You get shamed out of the authentic image that you were born with. And people will shame you into what they want you to be, what they prefer you to be. And that's what we can't fall for. Young African-American males have been socialized to show up as thugs, street niggas, and criminals and drug dealers and all these different things. Why? The feedback that they get from their female counterparts in the Black community, they have a trend, an ongoing legacy of shaming young men into that characteristic, shaming young men into that image. If you don't show up that way, you get shamed. You get laughed at, you get rejected, you become the outsider, you get isolated, you are punished for being upright, you are punished for having good sense in your head. You're punished for having good character. You are punished for speaking properly. You are punished for preferring books and, intelligence and things of that nature over the street shit or over the culture, as they say. Okay. These are things that they punish you for. And so the fact that Venus is part of our astral identity that wants to feel desirable, that wants to feel included, that does not want to experience rejection or isolation, we can sell our soul, we can sell our identity, we can sell our image in order to be accepted and fit in. And that is part of the leveraging power of, the feedback in society. Okay. So when you want to, socialize young men in a certain way, the feedback of the females is what socializes the males. Okay. Just like, as I mentioned many times, African American females started shaming, men who work 9-to-5 jobs. They make less than 100,000, or, they're craftsmen, blue collar workers, or whatever else. African American females are now, they started a trend of shaming men who are not 100,000 and over, shaming men who work 9-to-5s, shaming men who are not entrepreneurs, shaming men who are not drug dealers, shaming men who are not criminals, shaming men who are not rich or wealthy in their image. Okay. And what this does is it has a direct impact on the Pisces expression of young males. And that direct impact goes into the belief, I believe, okay, Pisces. And when you pair that with Aries, I believe I am. And I believe I am what the feedback suggests. I believe I am what they are saying I am, okay? This is the weaker side of that. Now, if we strengthen ourselves with this awareness, then we can insist on our own belief of ourself and confirm and affirm our own belief of ourself and be who we want to be the natural and true person, regardless of the feedback that they are giving. Understand that. And so this causes us to go a different direction than what was destined or intended for us. And we end up somewhere that we're not supposed to be. As you see it today in the African American community, very few young African American males are desiring the outcome of, the blue collar careers, craftsmanship, 9-to-5 things. Everybody's trying to be entrepreneurs and, all these different things. It socializes who they are. And this is where that becomes a problem. We're not being natural. We're not being real. We're not being authentic. We're not being true because of the threat of rejection, the threat of the feedback, the threat of isolation, the threat of being called names. When we are called names, that activates that Pisces and Aries relationship of I believe I am. Understand that. So this is a good time right now to go over the I am, to go over the I am. We just had full moon Aries. You know that Aries is the expression of I am. It is the I am principle. So what is your I am principle? What is it all about? You will need your natal birth chart to listen to this, or if you already memorized it, it's just fine. But really, it's better if you have your natal birth chart and you're able to refer to it as I go over this. I'm going to take my time. I'm enjoying this beautiful cigar. Feeling nice and relaxed, taking my time. Just got out the gym. So, I got time today, you heard? We could get lost in thinking that was someone that we're not. I am a banker. I'm the pizza guy. I'm the cable guy. I'm the husband of so-and-so. I'm the father of so-and-so. I'm the wife of so-and-so. I'm the daughter of so-and-so. No, none of these things are who you are. The I am is where you are Allah, God, the Most High, personified. The part that I added to it, personified, it is in combination or through your first house, through the expression of the first house, through the personification of the first house. The first house gives it context. So, your house is what tells you who you are or what you are in conjunction to the I am. If I give an example for myself, I have Aries at the 9th house. I'll just use myself as an example, and you can convert the context to your chart to see how it lines up with your chart personally. So let's do this little exercise, walk it down. The 9th house is where there is wisdom, the principle of wisdom, the principle of competence, the guru, the teacher, the student, and the teacher, the one who learns and the one who explains. It is the scholar. It is the researcher. This is the place of expansive intelligence. Expansive intelligence. It is also the house of expansive experience. It is a house of philosophy and higher learning. It is a house of fatherly wisdom and knowledge. It characterizes Jupiter. It characterizes Jupiter. For Jupiter to be characterized, it is much like the big, strong, kind, and generous father. Okay? The big, strong, kind, and generous father. Like Ariel's father. Little Mermaid type shit. You heard? Jupiter in Ifa Yoruba African spiritual tradition, which is my tradition, this characteristic is called Obatala, the chief of the white cloth, father of Orishas, the owner of the heads, the one who originated and pushed light out of darkness, the maker of the bodies of man. Obatala, the big, black, strong, and generous Father. Obatala. So, the I am principle, Aries, at the ninth house, it goes as follows. I am the student. I am the teacher. I am the philosopher. I am the experienced. I am the fatherly. Ori Baba. Ori Baba. ORI hyphen Baba. BABA. Consciousness of the Father. I am Jupiter personified. I am competence. I am guru. I am scholar. I am teacher. I am follower and I am leader. I am learner and I am explainer. I am researcher. That is my I am principle. I am journeyman. I am traveler. That is my I am principle. I am wisdom. I am spiritual knowledge. I am understanding. That is my I am principle. Because Aries is at the ninth house, it is who I am. It's not the flesh. It's not a job title. It is who God is through you. It is who God is through me. So likewise, apply the same context to yours. If you need help with it, I will be happy to help you. If you just mention your Aries placement and house placement, down below in the comment section, I can help you out with that so that you know how to place that I am expression. I'll be glad to help you with that. Now, while there are planets, impulses, or aspects at your Aries house, of course, this adds details, description to the I am principle, okay? But the overall essence or context of that I am principle is understood in combination with the I am and the particular house that you have Aries in, okay? And it goes in the same way that I just explained it to you. Now, the next part that we merge with this I am expression is the word through. Through, okay? The word through. The through is your first house. Your first house. For example, I am a Leo, first house. So I am through Leo. And if I am through Leo, I am through strength, the strength card. I am through illumination, which is light of the sun. I am through influence. I am through leadership. I am through generosity. I am through the sun card. I also am through the star card. I am through the number 1, heart, soul, urge, expression, which is the magician card. So I am through that particular personification. So I am, for example, if I choose one of the attributes of the 9th house, I am wisdom personified through strength. I am the guru personified through influence. I am the traveler personified through resurrection, as the sun resurrects, which is why Scorpio is at my 4th house. That is a point of resurrection at the core of my being. The sun sets and rises. It dies and it resurrects over and over again. And you will find that pattern in my life, where my light dies and it comes back alive over and over and over again. It's something that Leo risings have to learn to accept. So, try to do the same with yours. I am such and such through such and such. Okay? Your 1st house. Now, one of the benefits of shame and a sense of guilt is that it's a sign that your conscience is active. Your conscience is active. What the shame and guilt is being expanded and activated through is a Cancer Jupiter expansion, the matriarchal force within the self that judges good, right, bad, wrong, and the feedback that reflects off of that constitution within ourself and how it was programmed from our 4th house upbringing. And that in contrast with the 12th house subconscious activity. What it leads to, that shame, is this contemplation. Contemplation, we will find that reality consistent with the intent of South Node Virgo transit, which takes us to the 12th house for contemplation, because it is an expression of the Hermit card as isolation. Understand? When we find acceptance and a willingness through Scorpio to transform or transmute that reality within ourselves, we transform the isolation into solitude through embrace of that status of now being alone. This is where the consciousness gets refined, and the brilliance of the light of the consciousness, it accelerates and expands in intensity. Now, consistent with what I'm saying as well, this is a realignment with our conscience. Since 2008, when Pluto and Venus were conjunct, leaving out of Sagittarius direct into Capricorn, that started a phase in which we were to transform through the likes of Venus, the themes of Venus. And this ended with the South Node Libra transit. Now, during that time period, Pluto, moving through Capricorn, it presented a trial for us through Capricorn, which included greed, competition, ruthlessness, lust for money, the corporate image of the female, the measuring of the status of man and woman based on how much money they have, what career they have, and what status they have as a competitive expression. Getting to the bag. It's all about the money. If you broke or dusty, you lame, or you this and you that. Every insult and every shame tactic had something to do with money and status from that point on. We went too far. In truth, we went far enough to learn lessons. In truth. And we have to undo, or the proper word, we have to process what we learn from the Pluto conjunct Venus, Capricorn Pluto transit that ended with South Node Libra. The medicine has to come to heal those conclusive lessons and karmic themes. And this was our overindulgence in Venus in the context of Capricorn themes, which were corporate, monetary based, fiat based, money based, greed, ruthlessness, competition, status, and hierarchies. Okay? So we're healing that. And what it takes to heal that is the Hermit card process through South Node Virgo that recovers us from the detriment of Venus. Anytime someone has overexposure or exploitation of themselves through Venus, you have to go through the Hermit card to redeem yourself or refine yourself from that extreme exploitation. And so the things that we see in society today, for example, where the massive layoffs, government shutdown that increases the expansion and burden of unemployment, the inability to access resources, handouts, government programs, centralized benefits, and so forth, everything that promoted and encouraged this money status, career status, competition status, energy, we no longer have access to it as a collective in society. So the medicine is here to heal us and cure us from that. We can't get to the authentic person if we have distractions in things before us. We have to lose some things, which include status, property, even money, your health at certain times. Whatever it was that encouraged a distraction or means of escape from concentrating in that number 9 Hermit card energy so that you could get back to the true and authentic person, which does not come with validation, praise, worship, celebration, attention, accolades. It doesn't come with any of that. We fast from that during the process of coming back to the true and living person. We have to fast from it. And anyone who has a life path number 9 or heart soul urge number 9 expression in their life, they understand this reality very well. Because number 9 is the expression at the South Node Virgo. Understand that. So having said that, we're recovering our conscience again. We got into hypersexuality, overindulgence in the spread and promotion of homosexuality and sex change identity crisis that filtered over into the children. Promiscuity went through the roof. And this again was since the Obama era up until South Node Libra transit, which was recent. Okay. We also seen a spike in the divorce rate, which has made it to females file for divorce at 70% of divorces are filed by females. 90% of those are college graduate or attending. We've seen marriage turn into something that is no longer respected, honored, or reverenced. We have found promiscuity has went through the roof. We found that single women status has went through the roof. Baby mama culture has gone through the roof. You know, in other words, we lost our conscience. We threw our conscience away. What came with conscience was a sense of shame and a sense of guilt should we cross or violate the law of the matriarchal principle within the self. We feel shame or we feel guilt. So there's a good side to it because it protects us from crossing the threshold of indecency, crossing the threshold of oppression and injustice to self or others, violating the supreme law of the land, which is matriarchy, the conscience. Characters such as, for example, Amber Rose, who did the slut walk of shame. You know, there were divisive, intentional, and deliberate efforts to kill the conscience, to neutralize the conscience, to put the conscience to sleep, to null the conscience, to detach from the conscience, to dishonor the conscience. And the contradiction is that feminists thought that they were championing matriarchy, but in truth, they were oppressing matriarchy, which is the conscience. When you go against the conscience in any way, fashion, or form, you are going directly against matriarchal principle and archetype. That is the irony. They didn't want anybody correcting them, telling them right from wrong, good for bad. Nobody could shame anybody. Nobody could correct anybody because cancel culture was standing between the conscience and our reckless behaviors as a collective. There's no correction. So we went to the extreme and lost contact with our conscience as a collective. We have become immoral, lacking and void of morals, void of a compass of right, wrong, good, and bad, shameless of our actions when we should violate. No shame and no guilt and no dignity. That is a dangerous world to live in, a morally bankrupt society. We are learning to recover that through Jupiter. We are learning to download it again and get back in touch with our conscience. Who do we have to reconcile with to reactivate the conscience? It is the inner child. It is the inner child, which is why we had to do so much inner child work through the Cancer Mars retrograde. The pressure is still on in review of Saturn and Pisces during this retrograde season in order to ask us, have we learned? Have we learned to honor our conscience, to clear our conscience, to not overload our conscience unnecessarily or deliberately? What are the consequences or results of violating the moral compass, the moral foundation of the matriarchal principle within the self. It is our only guide to be consistent with the image and likeness of God. It is the conscience. It is being restored. We also are having a recollection of what really is lasting, what is important, what is valuable. And that has the deepest anchor in family, man, woman, and child, not just woman and child. Man, woman, and child. We are going to learn that it was a terrible mistake in our societies to alienate men, to vilify men, to push them out, to mark them as evil, to lie on them as fathers, to use the system as a convenient weapon against them, to turn babies into weapons against them. We're going to learn that that was not in our best interest as a collective. The experiences are coming as a collective to where we are going to remember what is most important, what is most valuable. And that has to do with loving each other, taking care of each other, being able to trust each other, working together, pulling together to create the welfare and security that we want to feel. But to get back there after so many violations of our conscience, we have to pass through reconciliation, peace treaties, forgiveness, atonement, corrective action, unity, cooperation. We have to put those things back into practice. And the circumstances are here that makes it so that we cannot avoid but to do it, because the pressure is going to be too intense to ignore it anymore. The crisis, financially, economically, domestically, socially, that is pressing upon the societies. It is medicinal, although painful.
We're not gonna. You're all a bunch of fucking assholes. You know why? You don't have the guts to be what you want to be. You need people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fucking fingers and say, that's the bad guy. So, what'll I make you? Good? You're not good. You just know how to hide, how to lie. Me, I don't have that problem. Me, I always tell the truth, even when I lie. So say good night to the bad guy. Come on. The last time you're gonna see a bad guy like this again, let me tell you. Come on. Make way for the bad guy. There's a bad guy coming through. Better get out of his way.
So, if I were to specify the who and the what, okay, the who versus the what. The who, or per se status, the who, or per se status, that goes with the first house. The what, which is the essence of the per se status, divine essence, that is, of the per se status. That is the Aries, the what? The what, that God consciousness, the image and likeness of God, is personified through the first house. Okay? So the image and likeness of God, Aries, is personified through the first house. Okay? Let's understand that. Now, they both are the same, the who and the what. Even though we're specifying through the chart, if I clarify the details, you will realize that it is the same. For example, the first house is an Aries estate. The first house is an Aries estate. All right? What I mean by that is the first house is ruled by Aries. Because it is ruled by Aries, during your lifetime, you may have another sign that expresses through your first house, but it is still a territory or real estate, a property of Aries. It is rented out to the tenant of the sign and lord of that sign during your lifetime because of time and location that you were born. For example, even though I have Leo at the first house, Leo is the tenant. It is renting that property. It is renting that estate. But the estate still belongs essentially to Aries. So, the Aries placement in your natal birth chart is the what? The first house territory is the who, personified. So the first house is still an Aries energy, just as the Aries placement is an Aries algorithm. While the Aries house may have a different algorithm of spirit or sign, zodiac sign, it still is a territory of Aries. So the who and the what still applies to Aries in this context. Understand that. Now, I could say from, okay? The next thing I could say is from, in light of who owns the real estate of where your Aries placement occupies as a house. Let me give an example. I'll stay consistent so that it can make sense using my own chart placement. I have Aries at the 9th house. So we know that the 9th house is a real estate of Sagittarius. Therefore, I have to refer to Sagittarius as the from. So I am from, you see, I am such and such from 5th house, Sagittarius, such and such. You see, this is how it's expressed. It's the from, because it characterizes the lordship, the algorithm, the territory that I am is expressed from 9th house. So I still have to reference to the sign Sagittarius. And giving the context of the sign, the from, is the 5th house. For me. That is for me, Leo rising. So the 5th house is where the 9th house context is sourced from in walking experience. Sagittarius. Fifth house can have a context in Sagittarius, for example, suggesting that self-reflection, experience of the self in reflection, experiences with children, experiences with family and prospects that bring influence of joy, pleasure, creativity, inspiration to the heart center. And also based on consequences of my heart's expression to be inclined to expansive experiences. And all of these things being the causation of said reflection, whereat at the 12th house, because the 12th house is where reflection of the self takes place, of the self. And the 5th house is a house of the self. It is a house of the expressions of the self. With Sagittarius, it indicates thorough expressions of the self through experiences, actions, patterns, lifestyle, travel, exposure to people, places, and things that are not of my birth origin or my natal origin. Having exposure to that which is beyond my natal origin. Initiating self-introspect, causing examination of value or identity of the self, characterizing or naming and classifying the expressions of the self, all of this through expansive experiences. So experience is the substance, the underlying substance of my I am. It is experience. It is to be the teacher through experiences, be the guru through experiences, be the competent person through experience and higher learning. So a person with this disposition, they are fated to pass through many experiences that may far exceed the common person. You've seen a lot of shit and you've done a lot of shit. And with Sagittarius, you have been subject to your ignorance quite often. Impulsiveness, doing dumb shit, fucking up, going headlong without thinking into action, living on the wild side, taking chances, taking risks, flirting with danger, indulging in or even abusing freedom, exploitation of your freedom, dodging, accountability in many cases, or even responsibility in many cases. And if this is a place of what causes reflection of the self, obviously you come full circle to being enlightened by such consequences. You become enlightened by those consequences. That's where the light comes from. That's where the wisdom comes from. That's where the competence comes from. It comes from you being the student through your own fuck-ups. You being the student of your own fuck-ups. Which I must admit, most of what I may have come to understand was from doing a whole lot of fucking up in my life. Doing a lot of dumb shit. And it's the fact that I am reflective that forwards that to the 9th house, Aries. So, I hope you understand what I'm explaining and expressing here. Now, your I am has a specific order that makes you what you are as the claim of I am. It's a specific order. Your first house, your ascendant, is what gives a specific order to how you manifest that I am. That is your house placements. Your second house, third house, fourth house, fifth house, on and on to the 12th house. These energies are in specific areas of your life because as a result of those particular compartmentalized patterns and thresholds of energies, forces, and algorithms of spirit and consciousness and intuition, it guarantees consistency with that particular output or modality of mindset, perception, and disposition, character, image, intuition, experience. All of this in context is very unique and specific to that ascendant, the order that follows the ascendant. For example, again, I'm going to use myself consistently, Leo rising. Leo rising. With Leo ascendant as a placement, or whatever your sign is at the first house, the ascendant point, the order of your chart is what makes that sign the expression that it is. For example, what makes a Leo a Leo? In essence, what makes a Leo a Leo? According to the order of Leo rising, it must have a core of Scorpio that is regenerative, 4th house. Okay? That makes a Leo. They are self-regenerating, resilient. They die and they resurrect over and over again. It is a natural and regulated occurrence for them. They are resilient. To be a Leo, you have to approach relationships through an Aquarius consciousness. The Aquarius consciousness is a detached disposition. A detached disposition. Yes, I like you. Yes, I love you, but I cannot get attached. It's not healthy for me to be attached. I cannot generate light if I'm attached. I cannot be a Leo if I'm attached. My strength cannot remain consistent and regenerative if I'm attached. My identity cannot be authentic if I'm attached. I cannot be self-sufficient and independent as a Leo if I am attached. The core of my being is not self-generative if I am attached. It is a detached disposition and approach to relationships. This is one of the things that has Leos to have a special trait, the ability to understand other people. Although there is room for narcissism through that Aquarius energy and Leo polarity. However, Leos do have the ability to understand people from an ethereal position. You cannot understand someone who you are attached to. You can only understand someone from a detached disposition. Leos have to have the reputation of consistency and stability. In the fire trine, Leos are the steady flame. Aries is the explosive flame. Sagittarius is the spreading flame. Leo is the consistent, steady burning flame. They are fixed. Who they are yesterday is who they will be tomorrow, and you will not change a Leo. Good luck with that. You will never change a Leo. You ain't getting ready to change a Leo. So likewise, there is a fixed reputation. Taurus. And Taurus is at the 10th house, the reputation. What they are known for, what they are known by. And it's not all flattery. Leos are known to be stubborn, which reflects in the 10th house Taurus. They are known to be bullheaded, which reflects in the 10th house Taurus. The 10th house is the characteristics and traits that we are known by. Leos are known to be reliable. You can count on them. They are steady and they are sturdy. They're not all over the place. They are consistent. They are durable. They will only put their energy into what they see value in. They will only put their energy into what they see as worth their time. A Leo will go the long route to do something the right way. They will wait forever for the right part. If I don't have the right parts, I'm not doing it. If I don't have the right tools, I'm not doing it. Why? Because I have to take pride in everything that I do. Leo is a social butterfly among people when it comes to networking. Gemini, 11th house. With children, Leos are fiery, passionate, zealous, joyful, jolly, very loud. You can hear them all the way down the street when it comes to children. They act just like a damn child. I'm talking about myself, okay? When I'm around children, I act just like a child. I get down on their level. I joke like them. I play like them. I act like them. I behave like them when I'm around them. Leos are very good with children. They love children. And that Sagittarius, they are very adventurous and playful with children. They love to do activities with children, especially outdoors activities with children. Children light them up. It sets their spirit on fire when they see children. How does a Leo approach their day? They approach the day in the infrastructure of Capricorn. They are very time sensitive. They care about how they enter and how they exit. They care about what time they arrive and what time they leave. Their day is ruled by the clock. They have to have total control of their daily schedule. The Leo moves throughout their day in a very militant manner, a disciplined manner. What is the value system of a Leo? Second house. Efficiency, Virgo. Taking value in refinement. Perfecting value. Being the best. First place is not enough. It must be first place with flying colors. Yes, it shines, but I think I can make it shine brighter. It is the Virgo value system that gives Leo the trait of taking pride in what they do, taking pride in how they look. When you have Leo at the first house, this is a person who is obsessed with looking the part in their physical body. This is a gym rat. This is a person who's always working out, who's always dieting and trying to eat right, and their body has to look so fucking perfect. I'm not saying that I'm perfect, but I strive to look perfect. And believe me, I am not perfect, but I damn sure strive towards it. Leo risings are very self-conscious about looking healthy, looking like what they believe in, looking and being athletic, fit, capable. And this has a lot to do with what's reflected in the 5th house Sagittarius. I have to be ready for action. I have to be ready to perform. Because my inner child expresses through physical activity and competition. The competitive edge of the Leo. Second house Virgo, Leos are very sensitive about what they eat. They care about their diet. Very particular about the food that they consume. It has to look right, and it has to have the proper composition of nutrients. And this reflects back to the self-consciousness in the physical body. When a Leo looks in the mirror, they want to be able to feel proud of what they're looking at in the mirror. So likewise, this same context goes with you and your rising sign. Your rising sign gives insight into what makes the characteristics of those sun signs or the sign in and of itself. What are the positions of being, the culminations of being that crystallizes the expression of a particular zodiac sign? And it goes likewise. Understand? What is the subconscious? What is the subconscious intent? What is the secret intent of the Leo? That is the 12th house. It is care, advocacy, security. That is, I want care, I want advocacy, and I want security, but I will never show you that. You see what I'm saying? Because Cancer is in the 12th house. The 12th house is what we hesitate to show or reveal to people. It is our secret longing. It's what we want more than anything, but we're too proud or too fearful or too guilty to say it or admit it. See, I'm telling on myself, and I'm telling on you too. You see what I'm saying? If I could be transparent, you could be transparent. So let's do this together. You know what I mean? So with Cancer at the 12th house, it's the motive. It's the underlying motive of Leo. And what this reflects is what I long for myself, I willingly initiate to give and serve others, with that same impulse. So the leading intention of a Leo is generosity. Generosity. Leos are kingly. They are royal. So a Leo has to feel as if they are always the upper hand, the hand that gives. Not upper hand as in arrogance or narcissism, but arrogance as, upper hand as in, I rather give to you than receive from you. I rather provide for you than you provide for me. I rather pay the tab than you pay mine. If you try to pay the tab for a Leo, or you try to buy a Leo lunch, they're going to say, oh, no, I got it. And then they're going to tip on top of that. That's the disposition of a Leo. The Leo's not going to want you to open the door for him or her. They're going to want to open the door for you. The Leo's not going to want to come to you when they need something. They will suffer inside of themselves out of their pride, which I do not recommend. It is not healthy. It is egotistical. It is stubborn. It is unnecessary. And again, those are among the things that I had to learn the hard way. Okay? Not to be so macho and stubborn in my masculinity, because that is not healthy masculinity. It is not wise, and it also is not justice to the self. We must be compassionate to the self, and we must obey the matriarchal principle of the self. To thyself, do no harm. Do not put yourself in harm's way, and do not deprive yourself of what you need, even if you have to ask help. I had to learn that, ask for help if you need help. You see what I'm saying? But what I'm telling you is the natural disposition of the Leo impulse, okay? So, Leo algorithm. Now, the Leo algorithm, they want to be the hand that gives. They want to take care of others. They want to be generous. They want to be fatherly. They want to look out into the community or the family and say, if you need anything, come to me. If you go to someone else and step over the Leo, for example, if you go next door, if you go to your other neighbor and borrow a cup of sugar, instead of coming to your Leo to say, hey, I need a cup of sugar, the Leo's going to feel offended that you didn't come to him or her so that they can have the chance to express themselves as a Leo and give you a cup of sugar. The Leo wants your care, Cancer. They want your advocacy. That is, they want your need of being defended and protected, spoken up for. They want it to come from them. If somebody is bullying you, somebody's messing with you, somebody's treating you like you're weak, somebody's taking advantage of you, if a Leo finds out, they're going to be the mama bear or the papa bear that comes to whoop some ass in order to protect and defend you. Leos take pride in defending the weak or defending the meek, defending those who are unable or incapable of defending themselves. That is a Leo trait. Where does that come from? It comes from the underlying subconscious programming, innate in the soul, from Cancer at the 12th house, that informs the natural personality of Leo at the first house. It informs it. Now, where am I getting at? Likewise, your 12th house and my 12th house, we have Saturn in retrograde finishing up a lesson. And the lesson with Saturn in retrograde is, are we aware of and are we in control of the subconscious programming that informs the expression of the personality, first house. Are we aware? In that programming that could have come from past lives, from media, propaganda, family members, people with bad intentions, or people who are acting out of ignorance, abuse, early childhood trauma, inner shadow work that is incomplete or has not been resolved yet. All of this can run subconscious programming on that 12th house and Pisces, okay? 12th house and Pisces. And it can misinform the personality. It can misrepresent the personality, first house. It can deprogram, or it can program inaccurately or in misalignment the first house. Fear does not belong there. Guilt does not belong there. Shame does not belong there. Escapism does not belong there in the 12th house. So when we have all these things going on in the 12th house or Pisces, we don't get to be our true and natural self. We become someone who we are not. And who we become is a shadow of the self. And what is the shadow of the self? It is the self that lacks love, the self that lacks illumination, the self that lacks alignment and consistency with truth and authenticity. And when that happens, we become destructive to ourselves and others. We become a liability to ourselves and others. We create misfortunes. We create regrets. We cause oppression and injustice to the self, injury to the self, loss, lack of fulfillment, depression, sadness, despondence, anger, resentment. The list goes on. So, you are probably putting the pieces together already that this has a lot to do with what we had to learn through the water trine, Mars Cancer retrograde earlier in the year, 9 months, okay? Scorpio stellium of Vesta, Juno, Black Moon Lilith, 9 months, Scorpio, okay? This was to clear these things away so that the 12th house is running its natural program in Pisces rather than a program that has been conditioned in us from unhealed trauma events, societal or systemic programming, so on and so forth. Okay? So the benefit of doing this work, it allows us to stand in proper person, or per se, the authentic person. And the 12th house algorithm of consciousness, it then becomes the underlying expression that informs the authentic nature of our true and right personality. And that is when who we are begins to make more sense. That's when who we are becomes more clarified. And that is when the fruits of what we do and what we say, it is more fulfilling. It is more consistent with what the heart wants to express. After all, the heart, the 5th house, is a trine to the 1st house, just as it is a trine to the 9th house. You see? And through this trine, 1st, 5th, and 9th house, it is a fire trine. We then create. It is a trine of creation. We then create consistent with our true meaning and destiny to live a fulfilled life, standing in the image and likeness of God. Understand that. So, I think I'm going to leave it that simple instead of, I could go into a whole lot more, but I'm just going to leave it there because I just want us to do that exercise. And the main point is that I want us to understand why we had to have that Saturn. The Saturn transit through Pisces is so important because, as you know, Aries is it's a critical expression for the restoration of true and authentic identity, which Neptune, as you know, is at that 0 degree, and so is Saturn, of course, retrograde now, but the 0 degree is where, they conjunct and, and even to the 1st degree, they have this conjunction, which is a new beginning in the identity, in which Neptune is going to dissolve and purify the intent of the identity, the expression of the identity, and my own ideal. Have I become my own ideal again? It's what Neptune asks at that position. Okay, it is to romanticize your own ideal and concept of yourself. But if we don't get the subconscious programming of shame and guilt out of our subconscious, we don't get to be the authentic person, because shame and guilt drives us to impulsive behaviors and actions that are alien to our soul's mission, meaning, and expression. And out of fear, out of shame, out of guilt, we're doing and saying things that are not true to us. Understand? So I think we get that already. And with Chiron transiting Aries, it hurts to be who we are. It hurts to be who we really are. And this would make sense, that it hurts to be who we really are. Because our societies, through the Rothschild Rockefeller ideal, Capricorn, the Khazarian rulership over the society, which Rothschild Rockefeller are Khazarian, small hats, okay? The blue and white flags. Yeah, not Jewish. They're not Jews. They're Jewish. And these are Khazarians, principalities. And these principalities, they were the ones who decided what this earthly realm would consist of in our societies. They are the ones who designed the world of Satan. I'm just keeping it a buck. I'm not going to shy around or, pity pat. I'm going to put it out there. I'm going to say what I'm thinking. They designed Satan's world on earth. And it made us something that we're not. It caused us to live out a very unnatural reality here in our society. And this is how we get things through the shadows of Pisces, such as addictions, depression, the inclination to do harm to ourselves, calling it pleasure, calling it fulfillment and joy, calling it happiness, the abuse and entrapment of the self, calling it joy and fulfillment, self-entrapment. That's a 12th house theme. Self-undoings, escapism, alcohol abuse, drug abuse, sex abuse, okay? Fear-mongering, These are the things we get plagued with when we're not being true and natural to ourselves here in earth and how we have designed, or how they have designed society. It is not natural. From school systems, 1902, Rothschild Rockefeller, the General Education Board, the repurposing of motor oil in our foods, Rothschild Rockefeller, banking systems, which came from Jews, the abuse of usury, and interest rates, the way that banks shark and play predator on the people. You know, you look at, even look at the student loan crisis. Nobody put a gun to anybody's head to take the student loans. But when you're socializing the people into the ideas that they are nothing if they don't get an education. Oh, and by the way, you got to get one of our handy dandy loans to get an education. This is coercion. It's the manufacturing of coercion. And you're selling them dreams that are not true. You spent all that money, went into debt to get that degree, and you still end up working at Target or Walmart. You still, have to pay it back. It doesn't always turn out to be true. It's, there's so many things that we can name about the way that this society is designed and structured. Because we're born into it, we may not question it. But the truth is that it's not the only design that would have worked. It's not the only design that should have been. We could have done better. Were it not for greed, exploitation, were it not for these wicked agendas, for the filthy rich, we could have expressed a more humanitarian order on the earth that prioritized the matriarchal needs in all of us rather than the patriarchal consumption and domination and greed and agendas that we instead have been subject to. And that system is crumbling down, it's falling down, it's dissolving. And they are fighting to keep it up. They're fighting to keep it in power. But God is going to win, not them. And when God wins, the people win. The people win, especially the meek of the earth. And so all of this goes together. It's freeing up the true and natural person. And I want you to look at your chart and run that down. And if you have trouble understanding it, let me know. In the comment section, let me know. If it's long and drawn out, you know what I mean? You got something that's long and drawn out, 20 pages and going to take me, 45 minutes to an hour to chop down, you need to schedule a session. You need to schedule an inquiry or session, where I could get detailed with you. But in brief, please, I welcome, the curiosity and questions. So anyway, let's look into that. Let's practice that. And let's understand ourselves. You know what I mean? Like, share, subscribe, tell a friend, share, let somebody know that there's a place they could go, to really understand astrology. Also, you all out there know Susan, you know what I'm saying? Go on over there too, because she teaches in ways that I don't teach. So she could give you benefit that might not be in my capacity to give you. You can learn a lot from Susan's channel too. She's really good at explaining things, and she also demonstrates with the chart live. You know what I'm saying? You already know. So anyway, yeah, there's that. Let's get the understanding of ourselves, you heard? These events that we're dealing with or going through, there is healing in it. There is also correction in it. We got carried away as a collective since the Obama era up until South Node Libra transit. That was the closing of the getting carried away, the big American party, the sex fest, the wealth exploitation, the arrogance and narcissism of comparing dollars as working class people, as common citizens, and illusions and delusions of having a status that simply isn't true or real of themselves. fictitious attempts to flex, express arrogance, class comparisons within communities that have obvious deprivations of culture, true respect for wealth, and unification. That spirit of feminism, it's about to take its medicine. It's around the corner. And it starts with the crippling of finances. It starts with closing off access to status through the Capricorn theory. Access to competition with your sister or your brother in the name of that narcissistic spirit of feminism. The medicine is here because the opposite effect is what we're getting, consequently, based on South Node Virgo number 9 Hermit card, which works against the detriment of Venus, which ruled the South Node closing, and it also ruled the spirit of feminism in and of itself. The adolescent arrested development of the Western female. It is unavoidable what is coming to the common households, the common reality of the Western world and American people. The flex, the greed, the arrogance, the comparisons, the competition, the turn-up culture, hot girl summers, he dusty, he broke. You got to be making 200,000, 300,000, 500,000. These extremes in childlike thought processes. The tax now has to be paid on that. It incurred spiritual debt, and that spiritual debt has to be paid. A new reality is coming in to those same characters, specifically the leader of feminism. Although not the originator, the leader of feminism, the African American woman, she was hit the hardest in this layoff wave. What's around the corner that's accelerating with this government shutdown is a reality of who I was yesterday, what my circumstances are today, and the revelation that it could be medicinal for such a foolish spirit. When such a person had access to abundance, to wealth and to status, to opportunity, while being used as a useful idiot for the government, the reality now dawns. I got played. I'm fucked up. I burnt bridges. I vilified and alienated my brother. I shamed my brother. And I curse his reality that I'm now realizing what it feels like to not be in favor with the government because of my useful idiocy. The reality dawns. Many will not like what I'm saying. What I'm saying does not make me popular. It does not make me the choice person. It is not flattering. It does not make me attractive or desirable. But it does make me real. It makes me authentic. It makes me true. True to what's in my heart. My conscience is clear, and I hope yours is. But what is here is the bitter medicine that we have to take as a collective because we fail to warn each other, to forbid each other, and what we know is corrupting our culture and our souls, and we fail to encourage each other to do the right thing or the better thing, especially the sisterhood. It's here now. I know it's around the corner, and I've been announcing it for at least 2 years now. The balancing effect, the corrective course to feminism is here now. It has arrived. South Node Libra is not just over because the North and South Node transit has changed signs. It will be over when the spirit has let it go. Cancer Jupiter is expanding. The same expansion that took place during 9/11. And I'm here to tell you that crisis is what expands Cancer Jupiter, among many things. And it takes public crisis to reach the magnitude of Jupiter and its massive, unmatched gravity, and to the consciousness of Cancer, which is to realize our need for emotional security, advocacy, protection, and a carapace. What do I mean by a carapace? The crab has a shell. The matriarch requires a patriarch that is compatible with its needs and sensitivities and vulnerabilities as protection, as covering. Don't be fooled, especially females out there. You can call the police, you can dial 911, and there's this illusion that because you have a cell phone and you can access public servants and summon them at your disposal conveniently, because you have a gated community where you have your little key fob and your passcode, you could go in and feel safe behind the gate closing. You can order your DoorDash and all these services that you can pay for. If something goes wrong with the car, you simply pay for a mechanic to fix it. There are many conveniences in this country that have rocked a lot of you to sleep about who a man is and what a man is. That memory is going to come back, and is going to come back sharply. He's not just a wallet. He's not just something to do when you're bored. He's not an emotional security dog. There's something in man that is born for the times that we are at now. And it's right around the corner. I'm not announcing reason to be fearful, but I'm announcing reasons that we should get real, that we should get sincere, that we should get grounded, and we should question how we were programmed to think about each other concerning man, woman, and child. And whether or not man is something to desire or something to require in your life. The pressure is on. And family, what it means, what we have prepared for ourselves through family, what we have overlooked, underestimated, taken for granted. These realities are going to come sharply to the forefront of our minds, to the forefront of our heart, especially as Mercury transits with a square to Pluto through Scorpio. Scorpio being our response to insecurities. The reality is here through the public, through the media, through the administration that we have currently. Joblessness, layoffs, government shutdown, public resources, welfare, SNAP benefits, Section 8, these modifications, now health care, Medicaid or Medicare, questionable on the table on who will be able to benefit from it here on out, resources and how they will be maintained, how they will be accessed. Many are wondering right now with the government shutdown, when will I get paid again? When can I look forward to a paycheck? Should I quit? Should I go get another job? What's the probability of even getting a job in a season like this? 300,000 African American females let go from the government institutions or corporations. Upwards of 900,000 in layoffs in total in the past 4 months. You may not see it right next to you, but I guarantee you there is an extreme pressure that is building underneath the core of the earth. The pressure to pay another bill, to stop your vehicle from being repossessed, to avoid the eviction notices, to plan where to go should I get kicked out of this place, to plan what will I do if I lose my vehicle. Should I move out and live in my car or my van or my truck? Should I move back in with family and bring it together to lighten the load or the burden? Have I reconciled and made peace with kith and kin or loved ones or those who are in position to help me to create a sense of welfare, balance, stability, and security? It was just a faint memory ago where American females in their arrogance and their narcissism, feminists of them that is, to be specific, were full of proclamations, statements that echoed each other in the world, bringing insult, shame, condescent to their fellow man, to their brother, to males of society, and especially among them, the African American female. And she in particular, she has some burning bridges behind her. How has she treated her brother when she was the useful idiot of the government? How does she treat the family unit that consisted of man, woman, and child when she was the useful idiot of the government? Can she recall and remember that she was used as the perfect tool to divide the family unit, to spoil the culture of the community, the divisiveness of feminism, knowingly and unknowingly, executing the plan effectively? Will she be able to put the pieces together and recall what her tone was, her attitude, just a very short while ago? As this pressure intensifies and increases, what am I going to do? Something has to sober us after we got carried away with Venus. Something has to bring back our right mind after we got carried away with Venus. Something has to cure us of folly, foolishness, narcissism, arrogance, condescent, self-conceit. Something has to cure that. That bitter medicine has arrived. And for some, they will not feel a bump in the road because it has always been their reality. What am I going to do? I am all I have. There's no system. There's no opportunities, no handouts, no programs, Oh no, not for the male. The world has changed, and uniquely America has changed. And there's an adjustment for the feminist attitude that the means that she used to express feminism is now dissolved. And there is a circumstance that sobers the heart, wipes the smirk off of the face, and brings the reality in that it's time to grow up. It's time to get real, and it's time to reevaluate where value is, what is important and what is not, what is priority and what is not, and it is certainly not the party anymore.